On May 2nd, 2015, at St Mary's Hospital, a little girl was born who received the title, Her Royal Highness Princess Charlotte of Cambridge. Today, she is known as Charlotte of Wales, but her most important royal title may still lie in the future. The title of Princess Royal, which would make her the 8th woman in English history to hold it. Of course, we can't see into the future to know for sure, but we can look back into the past, and that's exactly what we're going to do. The title of Princess Royal is one of the highest ranking honours for women in the British royal family, traditionally granted to the monarch's eldest daughter. It was created as the English equivalent of the French title Madame Royale, which was used to distinguish the king's eldest daughter from other princesses at court. However, unlike some royal titles that automatically pass to the monarch's eldest child, such as the Dauphin in the French royal court, the title of Princess Royal is granted at the monarch's discretion. This means the monarch personally decides when and whether to bestow it. There is also a tradition tied to the title. It is held for life. Even when the reigning monarch dies and a new king or queen takes the throne, the Princess Royal keeps her title. The first Princess Royal was Mary Henrietta Stewart, the eldest daughter of the executed King Charles I. She received the title in 1642, a creation of her mother, Henrietta Maria, who had been raised at the French court and wanted to adapt the French tradition for England. Although Mary Henrietta spent much of her young life in exile in the Netherlands after her father's execution and died at the age of 29, she retained the title of Princess Royal until her death. The next Princess Royal wouldn't appear for another 80 years in 1727, when the title was granted to Anne of Orange. She was famously called the Flower of Princesses by none other than the composer Handel, who also gave her music lessons. Anne was known for her strong personality. When marrying the Dutch stadtholder, a role similar to England's Lord Protector, she famously declared that she would have married him even if he were a baboon. So determined was she not to remain an old maid. However, in the Netherlands, their new princess wasn't very popular. She was seen as too convinced of British superiority over everyone else. The next, Princess Royal Charlotte, was the eldest daughter in Queen Charlotte and King George III's large family. However, she was often considered plain and overly shy, and she also struggled with a stammer. She received the title of Princess Royal in 1789, but it's unlikely she was thrilled about it. She described her life at court under her controlling mother as slavery, with marriage being her only chance of escape. She eventually married at 30 to Frederick, Duke of Württemberg. Both bride and groom were overweight, making them targets of cruel jokes about their appearance. Tragically, their only child died shortly after birth. Perhaps one of the greatest what-if stories in British history is that of Princess Victoria, the first child of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. Born in 1840, Vicky was granted the title of Princess Royal at just 2 months old. For a short time, she was the only Princess Royal to also hold the status of heir presumptive, until her brother, the future Edward VII, was born. Since she would not become Queen of England, her path was to make a royal marriage. And, unlike many princesses of her time, she was actually fortunate in this respect. She and her husband genuinely liked one another. She'd married the handsome Frederick William, heir to the Prussian throne. They were a progressive couple who rejected anti-Semitism, championed women's education, supported constitutional monarchy and loved the arts. But their life at the Prussian court was overshadowed by constant clashes with Bismarck. Victoria was Empress of Germany for only 99 days. Her husband died soon after taking the throne, and their son, who rejected his parents' liberal ideas, quickly dismantled their legacy. She herself died just 7 months after her legendary mother, Queen Victoria. Just 4 days after her death, the world was introduced to a new Princess Royal, Louise, the daughter of Victoria's brother Edward. Louise was known for her quiet, shy nature and for the fact that she had previously married a commoner. Of course, her husband was hardly truly common. He was the Earl of Fife, but her grandmother, Queen Victoria, certainly did not consider him a suitable match for a princess. At one point, Louise reportedly said she would likely die an old maid, and permission for the marriage was finally granted. Her father didn't just bestow on her the title of Princess Royal, He even ensured that her daughters from this marriage received the titles of princesses, though not royal princesses. But even this quiet Princess Royal managed to make headlines. She and her family went on a voyage to Morocco and their ship was wrecked. Her husband refused to leave until all the women and children were safe, and the brave Princess Louise chose to stay with him. They were the last to leave the sinking vessel. 6 British monarchs reigned during the lifetime of Princess Mary. Victoria, her great-grandmother, Edward VII, her grandfather, George V, her father, Edward V, and George VI, her brothers, and Elizabeth II, her niece. Princess Mary is actually the reason Elizabeth II never held the title of Princess Royal. Mary inherited it in 1932 and kept it until her death in 1965, even after Elizabeth had become queen herself and Mary had attended her coronation. Like her later successor, Princess Anne, Mary earned a reputation as the royal family's true workhorse, and she is often described as the queen the country never had. She was deeply involved in both the First and Second World Wars, serving as a nurse, representing the monarchy on overseas visits, and holding numerous patronages. And an interesting fact, she was also friendly with Catherine Middleton's ancestors, Olive and Richard Middleton. The current Princess Royal, Anne, received the title in 1987, 22 years after Princess Mary's death. Continuing Mary's tradition of tireless service, Anne is known as one of the hardest working members of the royal family, having carried out an estimated 20,000 public engagements since turning 18. She's also been a trailblazer in many ways. She chose not to give royal titles to her own children and became the first Princess Royal to divorce in 1992. She was the first member of the royal family to compete in the Olympic Games, the first to be convicted of a criminal offence, and almost certainly the first to survive a kidnapping attempt, famously responding with the now iconic line, "Not bloody likely." Anne has truly set the bar incredibly high for any future Princess Royal. Since the title is granted to the monarch's eldest daughter, the next potential Princess Royal could be Princess Charlotte, once her father, Prince William, becomes king. However, that possibility only exists if the current holder of the title, Princess Anne, has passed away by then. Princesses Royal through history form a select and fascinating group of English royal women. Only time will tell which other women will join this historic and prestigious lineage. What do you think? Will Charlotte be a worthy successor to this title?